Hey guys, welcome to 30 Days to Learn Adobe After Effects course. My name is Vincent Nguyen, and today let's go ahead and take a look at mask and shapes within After Effects. So here in After Effects, I have a very simple composition setup. I just have a footage here of some waves and birds, and I want to discuss mask and shapes right here. Now, you can create mask and shapes with this little button right here. Next to the pen tool is the rectangle tool, and if you click and hold, you can select the many available tools you can choose from, such as the ellipse tool here, the star tool. So pretty much this is where you can create your mask or your shapes. Now, what are the difference? Let's go ahead and talk about mask first. So with this tool selected, I'm going to select our layer here and draw a shape. And as you can see, it kind of masked out this footage right here because we selected this waves and birds movie right here, and then we pretty much kind of cropped it out or masked it out. And as you can see here, under the properties, we have mask 1. And right now it's set to add, so it's going to add the mask on. If we subtract, it's going to subtract that area. And you have additional options here. You can invert them here. But I'm going to set it to add because this is by default here. And we have the mask 1 properties. And if we actually toggle it down, we have even more parameters. And the number one parameter that I want to talk about right now is the mask feather here. So if you feather the edges out, you can see that we have a less harsh edge. It's nice, smooth gradient fall off right here. And then the mask expansion either expands the mask or decreases the mask here. So for an example, if I increase it, it pretty much expands the mask beyond what we've drawn here. So this is a really nice way to kind of refine your mask, and you can actually decrease it to maybe a negative number, and it's going to decrease the mask as such. And then you have the mask path, which is keyframeable. For example, we have this mask here, and if we hit a keyframe for the mask path, we'll move forward, and then we'll just click somewhere here, and then we'll just drag this one over here. And you can see that it creates a keyframe, and the mask animates. Now, why would this be useful? Well, you can use mask in a myriad of ways. For example, maybe you want to cut this bird out and the bird is moving, so you would want to keyframe the mask path so that it'll sync up with the bird here. So that's how you create a mask. There are other ways to create a mask as well with the pen tool here. And what we're about to do is called rotoscoping, which is pretty much using the pen tool or masking out or cutting out individual parts of a clip for compositing reasons. So for an example here, I have a footage of a bird. I'm going to select the pen tool here. And again, you can click and hold down to add and select some of these additional pen tools here. But I'm just going to stick with the pen tool. And we'll just zoom in. You can zoom in by scrolling. And we have this nice image of a bird. Hit the pen tool again, and then we can just start masking this thing out. Now notice when you select a layer and you apply the pen tool to it, or the rectangle tool right here, it's going to create a mask automatically. And if you're not familiar with the pen tool, they're exactly the same as Photoshop's pen tool here. So you can create a really rough mask of the bird. I'm just going to create a really rough one right here so you kind of get the idea. And just like that, you can close it by hitting the first point here. And it's going to create a really rough mask. And I know this looks really, really horrible. Of course, you can spend more time and refine it. Rotoscoping is usually a very, very tedious task. And yeah, no one really likes doing it. And I just feather the edges out a little bit. Now, pretend you don't have your mask shown right here. You can either toggle it down and then go to mask, or select your layer here and hit M on the keyboard. And it's going to bring up the mask properties. And for example, if we hit F, it's going to bring up the mask feather, etc., etc. So you have a few options here. And since our bird is moving, we can maybe pretend that we're rotoscoping it. Maybe we move it over here. Get the selection tool, move it over here. It's going to move a little bit, and we'll, you get the idea. This is pretty much how you do some basic rotoscoping. It's really, really bad, but you kind of get the idea that we can animate all these parameters here, including the mask path. So that is a mask. Again, it masks out the current layer here. So what happens when we don't click on a layer and we get the rectangle tool here, and then we draw something? That creates a new shape layer, And notice how it's blue by default, and we get a shape layer 1 here in the composition, right in this composition layer right here. So that's the number one difference. Shape layers don't actually cut out anything, they don't mask out anything, and they're not applied to a certain layer. It's actually its own default and its own layer. So why are shapes useful? Why can't we just use mask and maybe create a black solid and just mask that out? Well, mask, you can control the path, whereas shape layers, you have more control over the actual shape of the shape, hence the name shape. So for an example, if we go into the contents here and go to rectangle, we can toggle it down. And you have all these options such as the stroke, the fill, the transform here. And you have all these options. It may be a little bit more apparent if I just select the star tool here. If I select the star tool and drag it out, it's just a very simple star. But if we go into the polystar 1 and then go into the polystar path here, you can see that we can easily change a number of parameters that will work very, very nicely. So such as the point here, the inner radius, the outer radius here. I mean, we have a lot of options to play around with the actual shape without screwing it up. Now we can also create a star using mask. So if we select the star tool here and make sure that we select our layer here, we can create a star mask. But there is really no options that you can really change besides these 4 parameters here, unless you want to change the path directly. So pretty much if you have a really weird shape, then you're probably going to want to use the pen tool and draw that shape out, or maybe manipulate the mask like this. But maybe if you want to create a more symmetrical primitive shape, then I would suggest using shape layers because they give you more parameters to mess with the actual shape, and it does things very, very nicely instead of the messy path that you get with the mask or the pen tool here. So that was just a really quick introduction to mask and shape layers. Again, shape layers are really, really nice if you want to create specific shapes, whereas the masking tool, it has a whole different purpose for masking out current layers or rotoscoping, or if you want to create those really funky shapes with the pen tool. So really basic overview. In the next lesson, we're going to be talking about adjustment layers and when to use them in After Effects. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you guys have any further questions, don't hesitate to leave me a comment in the forums, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Once again, my name is Vincent Wynn, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Bye, guys.